Alright, hello everyone. So this video will be about Smile 2, and it's gonna serve two functions. It's gonna be a recap and continuation of what we talked about on Monday. If you were in class on Monday, we already got through the first few slides of this PowerPoint, and now we're gonna recap and continue. But this video will also serve the purpose of being for anybody who wants to write about Smile 2. If you happen to be in a class that is doing the Wild Robot, so that's what this video will be for. So to give a recap, if you were in class on Monday, Smile 2, it is a film that follows Smile 1, and just like Smile 1, it is very much involved with issues of mental health and suicide, and it also touches upon physical disability. And as we talked about, mental illness and disability are often depicted in horror films, but most of the time it's for a scare factor. In other words, you should be scared of these crazy people, or you should be scared of these people who look different from you. But is Smile 2 different? Does it have something positive to say about mental health and how important it is? Does it have anything positive to say about the disabled experience? Well, you know what? Let's dive into it. So we did the symbols last time, where I had y'all discuss in groups, if you were there, Sky's scar, Sky's hair, the mirrors, and the Voss water. So, I don't know if y'all saw, but I uploaded the notes we made on D2L. So, I'm not going to talk about the symbols in this video. If you want to see what we said, you can, of course, refer to these notes, but I will probably call back to the symbols as I go through the rest of the PowerPoint. So let's go through the rest of the PowerPoint. So first of all, I wanted to talk a bit more about Sky. So of course she is our protagonist, right? And she is rich and famous, which we hit upon in class. She is supposed to be the last person you'd expect to have mental health problems because she has all this money and success, and she even talks about how success hasn't fixed all of her problems in that scene where she is talking at the charity event.
What can I say about how music inspires hope? Well, music gave me everything I ever wanted. Then again, music did almost kill me, so there's that. I guess that's not fair. Music didn't put all those drugs up my nose, I did. I think I'm supposed to be up here offering words of inspiration and advice. Well, when I think about what I wish someone would have told me when I was younger and first getting started, I suppose I'd say this business is really hard. And you'll spend years of your life chasing success, thinking that when it comes, it will magically fix, everything that's bad and wrong about you. And then you achieve success and you realize that it can't fix the deeply broken person that you have always been. And now you can't escape the miserable thing that you've become, and one day you realize how badly you wish you could just trade it all just for one fucking moment of happiness.
Event. And in addition to that, something we didn't touch upon before is, ironically, her success her career is probably what is causing her mental health problems, or at least making them worse. For one thing, her mother is her manager, and her mother has all these expectations of her to always pull through for her fans and go to all of these events, even when she's having a crisis. For another thing, her songs, I don't know if y'all picked up on it, but her songs are pretty bleak, I guess, because she sings things like, "Doctor, give me a new brain, I'm going insane," or something like that. I don't even remember. But anyway, her lyrics are all about basically losing your mind and needing a new brain because you lost, or rather because your old brain is deteriorating. So yeah, her career is definitely not helping her problems with trauma, with guilt for killing her boyfriend in that car wreck, etc. She's a drug addict, which is just a recipe for disaster, obviously. And her trying to get her fix is sort of what gets, well, not sort of, it is what gets her into the trouble with the entity when she goes to Lewis's place. That is how she catches the entity, because she was trying to get some drugs. And, of course, she was trying to get those drugs because she was physically disabled. She gets that back injury from the car wreck, and she also gets a scar from the car wreck. And we talked about that scar as a case of narrative prosthesis. She failed morally when she wrecked that car and ended up killing Paul, her boyfriend. So it could be a symbol of her moral failure, that scar. It could also be a symbol of her trauma that she doesn't seem to be able to defeat, because of course the entity pops out of her scar at the end, right? Because the entity represents all of her trauma and how it is going to lead to her ultimate demise. But could she have escaped her trauma or beaten it? Well, she could have. I've always understood the Smile movies as cautionary tales. Sky is an example of what you don't want to do when you're having mental health problems. You don't want to replace one addiction with another by chugging your Voss water. You don't want to continue seeking drugs as a fix for your problems. You want to get real help, and she is offered help in the form of Morris, but she refuses initially. If you remember, she runs out of that place when he offers to help her defeat the entity.
How?
But
From what I can tell, the chain stops when an infected host dies in some other way outside of the being's control. My guess is that just like other parasites, without a living host, it has no way to survive. It ceases to exist.
So it only stops if I die before it kills me?
Exactly. We need to kill you first.
What?
Only technically. Look, there are ways that we can very safely stop your heart. That'll deprive it of a living host. Once it goes, I can resuscitate your heart and bring you back.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
I know it seems extreme.
Extreme, you're asking to kill me!
Whoa, hey, just keep it down.
I don't even know you. I don't even know you.
My name's Morris. I'm an ER nurse, and if we don't do this, it's gonna kill you like it killed Lewis and infect another victim. Look, I've already got everything prepared. We should just go right now and get rid of this thing tonight.
I can't do this.
You're nearly out of time. This thing's been feeding on you for 3 days already. It's already taking control of your brain, and pretty soon you won't even realize the ways it's manipulating you, and then it'll be too late to stop it. We have to go right now.
Sky, is that Sky Riley?
Holy shit, dude, that's Scott?
Would you do a quick TikTok with us? Right? Oh, shit, it is Sky.
I watched that video where you knocked down that old lady like 50 times. That shit was so
the entity. But I want to put a pin on that and come back to that later, So let's talk about Lewis. Like Sky, he is a drug addict, and it looks like he's rich. Like Sky, at least to some degree, he has money because he has that $ light on his wall, and I think that's supposed to tip us off that he's well off, to say the least. But of course, he uses that money, it seems like, to buy drugs, so money can create problems just as easily as it can solve problems, you know. But anyway, he kills himself with a weight from a bench press, which is ironic because exercise, of course, is supposed to help your mental and physical well-being. So, yeah, that is there. And that'll bring me to... And we did talk about that on Monday. And that'll bring me to the next person who we did not talk about, who is Gemma. So, of course, when you are struggling mentally, you should, of course, do things like exercise and not end your life with a weight, obviously. Something else you should do is you should reach out to your friends, and Sky does do something right when she's struggling. She reaches out to Gemma, even though they are estranged. They had a big fight, right? And now they don't talk to each other, but Sky reaches out anyway, as one should do when you have mental health issues going on, because that spending time with friends and family is good for your mental health, right? And of course, Sky's mom isn't really helping, so she can turn to Gemma. Although I think Sky's mom did say that she should reach out to Gemma, so you know. Sky's mom is good in some ways, bad in others, but Gemma is the one that Sky should get some help from, right? So, because she's a true friend, isn't she? She always is there for Sky. She's always supportive. And Sky really feels guilty about putting all her problems on Gemma. But Gemma is always supportive and doesn't mind and is there for Sky. So she is the ideal friend. What is so tragic is that it turns out that Sky was spending time not with Gemma, but with the entity the whole time. The entity who was disguised as Gemma. So that is extremely tragic. We did talk about Alfredo in class, and I'm not sure if he's the smile entity. He could be, or he could just be an obsessive fan. We talked about how his skin condition would be a case of narrative prosthesis, because he's, you know, the bad guy. And he talks about Riley's amazing skin, and Riley doesn't think her skin is amazing because she has that scar, you know? And so he really is sort of making her feel bad, right? About her skin. He is tapping into her insecurities and not helping her, right? Because, you know, her assistant and her mom think her scar is badass, but she doesn't want to show it to her fans. So Alfredo, if he is the smile entity, he is really making Sky feel bad about herself, because that's what the entity wants to do. It preys on the bad shit in your head, as Morris puts it, your trauma, your insecurities, your guilt, etc. And I thought his name was really significant because he is greasy, right? Alfredo, full of oil and grease, and he's got the greasy face and what is obviously narrative prosthesis. The skin condition represents that he's bad, that he's hurting Sky. And of course, Sky faces her demise at a Pizza Hut, or at least it seems that way, which I thought was a bit funny. And I also thought, you know, if you are at the end of your rope, you might start eating stuff that's bad for you, like Pizza Hut greasy food. And that is a sign of depression, and that can lead, unfortunately, to the end of one's life, which is what happens to Sky. So let's talk about Paul. Paul is Skye's boyfriend whom she killed in the car wreck. And we see that he uses ableist language against Skye. That is one of our terms, if you remember. He calls her a psycho and fucking crazy, and that's what causes her to take the will and kill him. But of course, he wasn't the support she needed. Skye doesn't have a very good support system. That's why it's so tragic and sad when it turns out Gemma isn't really Gemma. And that contributes to all the problems she has. And her scar is a perpetual reminder of what she did. It really is a symbol of her guilt and of her trauma. So, let's keep going. He was not what Skye needed. Not at all. Because we can see she was already having trouble even before the car wreck. She was using drugs, and probably her rash decision to take the wheel was influenced by the drugs. So she started going downhill, literally, and also metaphorically. And Paul just wasn't a good support system for her. And that leaves me to Morris. So if Paul can't be there was never there for Skye, and if her mother wasn't exactly there all the time for her, making sure she was okay, and if Gemma wasn't really Gemma, which is just really sad, let's talk about this guy, Morris. So he is ostensibly the one who is truly going to help Skye. And he is the one who has knowledge of the Smile entity because it killed his brother. What is problematic here, at least in my opinion, is his solution is that they are going to temporarily kill Skye because the entity, he thinks at least, is a parasite. And if it doesn't have a host, it will die off, so they're going to kill Skye and then bring her back to life. But, I mean, that is really, the implication is unfortunate. He's basically saying you should commit suicide. That will solve your problem. That will end all your pain. That will put a stop to your trauma, etc. Sure, she's gonna wake back up, apparently. But it would still be her killing herself, right? Even if just temporarily. And if not killing herself, it would at least be harming herself. And I just think that being the way to defeat the entity is kind of messed up, in my opinion. I think that definitely undermines any positive message about mental health and how to take care of your mental health, because it seems to be saying the way to defeat this monster that basically represents trauma is to off yourself for a little bit. That's unfortunate, I would say. I understand that Parker Finn and the filmmakers probably didn't mean to imply that suicide is a solution to trauma, but that's what it kind of comes across as, to me at least. And I get that it might just be the lore of the movie, that this is the monster is a parasite that needs a host, etc. But the help that he is offering is it comes with unfortunate implications, I would argue. And the last thing I would say is I really was frustrated by the ending. I remember in the theater being frustrated by the ending, because I think Skye is a very sympathetic character, and you don't get sympathetic characters who have mental health issues in horror movies very often. And she is quite sympathetic, or at least I found her sympathetic. I wanted her to survive. I wanted her to defeat her trauma. And I wanted her to get out of there. But she doesn't. And it's different from the previous Smile, because in the previous Smile, the same thing happens to the protagonist of that movie, Rose. She refuses help. She tries to combat her own trauma by herself. And she ends up at the mercy of the Smile monster. But in this case, not only does Skye end up at the mercy of the monster, she also passes it on to a huge crowd of people. And that is pretty hopeless and bleak, much more so than the ending to Smile 1. I guess they were just trying to up the ante, and I know that happy endings don't make for good horror, I guess. But I really would have liked the entity to be defeated. The whole implication of the ending seems to be that trauma can never be defeated no matter what you do, and that suicide is inevitable for hundreds or even thousands of people. Like, everyone will get trauma eventually, and we can only assume that the Smile monster is going to kill all those people that Skye passed it on to. Yeah, I honestly don't like the ending. I hope if there's a Smile 3, which there probably will be, these movies have been making a lot of money. If there is a Smile 3, I really hope that they show the monster being defeated by, they show the monster being defeated through things like taking care of your mental health, right? Like, finding a good support system could defeat the monster. Or, finding a healthy way out of addiction could defeat the monster. Or anything like that, you know? But as it stands, that isn't what we have. But I really want the monster to get what's coming to it, if there are future movies. But yeah, I think it's a bummer ending. I think it's a downer ending, and I think it just sends a pretty bad message for the sake of a lot of gore. The ending to Smile 1 was not gory, and I don't think there was quite as much gore in Smile 1, but this one just goes all out. And I think it's unfortunate that it sacrifices an important message about mental health just for the scares. So, yep, I think it ultimately is a negative. It has negative connotations. I think it isn't giving a good message on mental health, or physical disability. I mean, with her scar, it represents her trauma, and the monster comes out of the scar, and the monster kills her. So yeah, that is my opinion on Smile 2. And I look forward to hearing your opinions. So thank you guys. I hope this gave you some good things to chew on for the essay and how this film deals with physical disability and mental illness. And I will see y'all next time. Thank you guys so much.
Please comment the answers to or email me the answers to the following questions. 1. How does Skye's career negatively affect her mental health? 2. Which character in the movie serves as a positive example of the support system Skye needs? 3. What is the negative connotation of Morris's solution to Skye's problem?